Good evening and welcome to Cure Talks webinars. I'm Shweta Mishra, your host, joining you from India. And today we have with us Matt Goldman, a myeloma survivor and patient advocate who climbed to the top of a 19,000 feet high Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds for Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, a leading organization working towards myeloma cure. Matt was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in May 2011 at the age of 49. He is currently in partial remission and is in maintenance phase of his treatment. He documents his myeloma journey in a blog called mattversusmyeloma.com, and he can be followed on Twitter at MPG61. In the next 20 minutes, Matt is going to tell us all about his incredible journey to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what you and your fellow climbers did, Matt, is not ordinary. Climbing a 19,000 feet vertical is considered as an extreme altitude mountain trek and an extraordinary task. I mean, how many of us, being all fit and fine, can think of climbing a mountain? The answer, of course, is not many, right? So let's start our trek and tell us all about the spectacular journey of yours and guide our audience to the summit.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up my slideshow for everybody. So we climbed, and I want to point out that it was an 8-day journey, 6 days up the mountain and 2 down. Day 6 was all day of hiking, and then that night was summit night. And I actually fell a little bit short of the summit. I made it to about 17,000 feet. Nonetheless, this was an amazing experience. And as I said, we climbed February of this year, and it really was about a 10 to 12 month effort leading up to it in terms of both training for the physical part of it, getting all the gear that we needed, and also fundraising. As you indicated, this was, we had 6 patients on the team, some caregivers, and a total of 15 or 16 people on the team, all one way or another connected with myeloma. We each were tasked with not only getting physically ready for the climb, but also raising money for the MMRF, which, as you indicated, is one of the leading myeloma organizations out there. 90% of the funds that we raised for the trip goes directly towards research. And as we know, as most people know, in the last 4 years, there have been almost half a dozen new drugs released that patients are on, including me, and a lot of that is due to the efforts of the MMRF. So we were each tasked with raising a minimum of $10,000 for the trip, which to me was daunting at first. Yeah. I've done fundraisers here and there, but never that amount. But I found that this was actually an easier task than I thought, because I have, obviously, since I'm a patient, a very personal connection to who I was raising the funds for. And it was easy to make that request to friends and family and to do that outreach, which can feel daunting at first. But again, having that real direct connection made it totally doable. So the picture that we're looking at here was taken in July of 2016. The team was from all across the country. We had a patient from Alaska, a patient from Seattle. I'm in California. We had somebody else in California, a patient from South Carolina, New York, and then everyone else was from all across the country. And so what we all did in July of 2016 is met in Colorado, and we all met for the very first time. And as a training hike, we climbed a 14,000 foot peak just to see how we would all do. Okay. So this photo is of the team at the top of Mount Bierstadt, which is, again, is in Colorado, which was sort of the midpoint for the team, since we're all, as I said, we're from, you know, across the country. These are the 6 patients that made up the team. There's an instant connection between myeloma patients, and for me, this whole experience, the number one greatest part of it was making these lifelong connections with other patients and other patients who have a desire to get out there and still live life and still climb mountains and still, you know, try and have a sense of normalcy. So this group here is just unbelievable. I'm inspired and motivated by the other 5 patients all the time. You know, it's trying to keep up with them was quite an effort. This is just, for me, flying. I flew since I'm in California. From here, we all rendezvoused in Amsterdam, the entire team. And I should point out that climbing Kilimanjaro, you have to use an expedition firm. We used a firm called Embark Adventures. They're out of Portland, Oregon. So the MMRF and Embark sort of made all the arrangements for us. And we flew to Amsterdam. Everyone rendezvoused in Amsterdam, and then we all got on the same plane and flew from Amsterdam to Tanzania, Africa, which is where Mount Kilimanjaro is. And this photo, just to me, was I don't know, we were halfway through the flight and we crossed over to the continent of Africa, and this is the Nile River. And just that, I think when I saw this, it just really hit me the enormity of what we do, what we had ahead of us. Again, this isn't anything too important, but it just shows our flight pattern of what we did. This is, you know, the plane shows where you're flying, and this is Mount Kilimanjaro below us. And what makes Mount Kilimanjaro unique is it's an old volcano, and it's not part of any sort of mountain range, so it just stands on its own. And so when you look at this satellite photo, you can see that it is all by itself, surrounded by flatness for the most part. We arrived in Africa. We stayed in a hotel. This is the view from our hotel. This is leading up to the climb. At this point, we were all very, very excited, anxious. There's several different routes up the mountain. We took the longer route, which would allow us, one, to go slower, which I definitely needed, and we also would allow us to acclimate to the elevation, the altitude change. 10,000 feet high, 15,000 feet high, and 19,000 feet, or in my case, 17,000 feet is very high. And one of the things that I'm always challenged with, as are many myeloma patients, is a little bit lower blood count, which means I'm not getting as much oxygen moving through my system. So taking the longer, shorter route was definitely preferred. So this was day 1 at the gate. We have to weigh our bags. We had a team. As I said, there were 16 of us on our team, but we also had roughly 50 or 60 porters and guides with us who carried our food and tents and, you know, all the essentials. We carried in our backpack what we needed for the day, which is clothes because the weather changed a lot, snacks, and water. And that's what we would carry daily. And then we would get to camp each night, and camps would be set up for us and meals would be made for us. So really all we had to focus on is hiking. So this is day 1 at the gate, getting ready to go. Here's our team also getting ready to start hiking. For me, day 1 was, I definitely questioned why I was there. It was the hardest day. You have a lot of adrenaline flowing. It was an immediate steep uphill. As I've gotten older and I've been living with myeloma for 6+ years, I've become a very slow walker, hiker, etc. And so I exceeded my pace, and that first day was quite a challenge. But this is our team getting ready to go. We all have our MMRF, Moving Mountains for Myeloma t-shirts. And this was the start of our 8-day adventure. This is just, we all had backpacks and we all had to, this is, for me, is just a funny picture. You know, we all sort of had to put something on our day pack so we would recognize ours from the other, and my wife had sewn a patch on it and my dog ate the patch. It's just a photo of my dog eating a hole in my backpack the night before I was to leave the country. Again, Embark was our expedition firm. What you're looking at here is they even carried up portable outhouses. There were 2 of them. This is one of them. They weren't that bad. At first, we were all a little bit worried how this is all going to work, but it really wasn't a bad situation. This is myself with a fellow patient. I think day 1 or day 2, and that's Kilimanjaro in the background. And you can see those clouds were moving in over the mountain. The weather changes just drastically, and even climbing the mountain, we went through 5 or 6 different climate zones. So at this point, we're like, wow, we're pretty close, but we still had a few more days of hiking to go. So looks can be a little bit deceiving. Again, these are just the clouds moving over the mountain. It was spectacular. It was just beautiful. Every night we'd get to camp, there'd be a mess tent. They would, again, we thought they're giving us popcorn and tea when we arrive at camp, but it was truly the greatest thing. The best popcorn I've ever had, the best way to really end the day. When someone would get into camp, we'd be greeted with song and dance, and everyone just sort of celebrating the accomplishment for the day. And here I am arriving at one of our camps at the end of the day. Every morning you'd get up at the crack of dawn. They would wake you up with tea. You'd sit and watch the sun come up, which was really nice. You'd chat with the fellow folks that were part of your team. This is just me sort of relaxing. And one of the things that was really nice is I mean, you are really off the grid. You know, you're sort of away from the real world, if you will. You're away from work, you're away from the stresses of home, you're away from traffic. And, quite an escape, quite a life-changing endeavor. This is a sunrise over the mountain. The sunrises and sunsets were spectacular. This is our team hiking, lots of up, and every day we climb. Here we are. I think this is day 2. Just a signpost, you know, letting us know we're heading in the right direction. Again, a signpost telling us, you know, if you look closely, it says there's different camps and different gates. As I said, there's several different routes up the mountain. They all eventually merge at one point when you're close to the summit and everyone's on the same path. But for a while there, you don't see any other teams climbing the mountain. This is arriving at camp, how we were greeted. This is part of our team of porters and guides who were unbelievable. All they wanted to do was see us succeed, and they were wonderful people. This is maybe day 2 or 3 on the mountain. Again, clouds moved in. We experienced hot days. We experienced some snow. We experienced rain, freezing weather, a little bit of everything. This was our lead guide, Augustine, who this is what he does, and great guy. And it's really thanks to him that I was even able to survive the first day, if you will. He sort of talked me down from trying to keep up with people and just take it slow and not push myself. This is one of those cold, rainy days, maybe day 3. This was probably about 14,000 feet, I think. This is, again, one of those cold, rainy days. We started in the sunlight and spent most of the day in the rain. And so this is one of the things that we all had to carry is our rain gear. And we had to be ready to put it on at any time. The rain could just come out of the blue. This is actually a snowy day. One day, maybe day 4, we went up to about 15,000 feet just to get a little bit acclimated with the altitude. And then we went back down to 13,000 or so to camp. And so we climbed to the 15,000 mark, and snowy and cold. Same location, just a little bit taken back. That's a lava tower behind us. Like I said, this Kilimanjaro is an old volcano. Again, here's our team. Really unique landscape that I don't think any of us had ever seen before. And these trees, a lot of folks referred to them as the Dr. Seuss trees. You can see fog. This is one of our campgrounds. Orange, we were very orange on this trip. You can see fog moving up a crevice on the mountain. So again, you had to be prepared for anything. This was one of our hardest days. It was the Barranco Wall, which was a nearly vertical rock wall that in some cases the guides were pulling me and up the wall as opposed to me climbing the wall. And this is, since we're smiling here, it means we're almost at the top. The nights were unbelievable. No ambient light anywhere. So the stars were unbelievable. You know, what we could see was just spectacular. Kilimanjaro's in the southern hemisphere, so we went in February, but that's actually summertime. So these are the summer stars that you're seeing here. This is another photo of that Barranco Wall, and you could just see how steep it was and what an endeavor it was. Another photo from down below of the Barranco Wall, and just us climbing and the guides helping us. It was a little bit rainy that day, so it was a little bit scary. A couple folks had a fear of heights, but they conquered it, and it was amazing. This is at the top of Barranco Wall celebrating. We're in our rain gear, we're happy, we're exhausted, but it was a huge success. Again, MMRF, we all had our MMRF orange jackets, rain jackets. As I said, the MMRF, 90% of the funds that they raise goes directly towards research, and I know I directly can thank them for the work that they do. This is one of the sunrises as we're all packing up and getting ready. We were up and hiking by 8:30 every morning, and we would hike all day. We're getting closer to the summit, so there's not we up to the point where we're above the tree line. There's not a lot of vegetation. It basically looks like this, almost a moon-like landscape. It's the peak behind us, you can see, with some clouds moving in and the snow on top. Getting closer each step we take. This is from our maybe second to last campground, getting very close to the peak of the mountain. And so as I said, the summit day was day 6, and we hiked all day, camped, slept for about 4 hours, and it woke us up around midnight to start hiking towards the summit. And as I indicated, the team made it up. I ran out of gas. I think the altitude hit me, and I was just feeling really run down at that point. And so 2 or 3 hours into summit night, I had to get off the mountain. And the guides, each night when you get to the tent, they check your vitals and they look at how the oxygen is in your blood and stuff. And so when they saw that I was struggling at that point, they don't really give you a lot, which is smart. They don't give you a lot of opportunity to sort of struggle. They want to get you off the mountain in case you really are being impacted by the altitude. But so this is after we got off the mountain. We had 2 days of descent, and this is, I think, this day 7, and this is our entire crew, our team, our guides, our porters. We had a documentary crew with us. The MMRF documented this whole thing. And this is everybody. It's a great group of people. This is 4 of us patients. Once we're just about all done. And once I got home, the first thing I did after arriving at the airport back in the United States was go and get a chocolate shake at about 2 minutes from the airport. This was what I was craving.
Right.
And that's it for the slideshow.
Wow, that was just a great and amazing presentation, Matt, with all those breathtaking and magnificent views and the story of all this climb with those tough-willed people that you were climbing with, staring myeloma in the eye and bracing it to the top of the mountain, and that to raise fund for myeloma research. So it's like we just climbed up with you to the top of the mountain, and we are back now enjoying that delicious looking cold coffee at the end of the slide that you had. So
yeah, I want to
yeah.
point out, just as a team, we raised nearly $300,000 between the entire team.
Oh wow,
Really,
that's great.
Yeah, like I said, we all had some connection to myeloma, which didn't make fundraising easy, but it made it easier than it might be. So
okay, well, yeah, that sounded like a lot of fun with all those sunrise and sunset views and the starry night skies, and then finally that popcorn at the end of the day. That would be very refreshing, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
So just to remind our audience, what's the frequency of this climb organized by the MMRF? Is it yearly or bi-yearly? And what are some of the mountains that the team has on their list to cover?
Sure. So the MMRF, it's a program that they started maybe 2+ years ago called Moving Mountains for Myeloma.
Mm-hmm.
The climb I was on was their second time doing Mt Kilimanjaro. I had actually watched the documentary from the first climb, which is what had inspired me to try and do it.
Mm-hmm.
They've also, they're not going to do Mount Kilimanjaro again in the coming year.
Okay.
But they recently did Mount Fuji. They've done the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
In March of 2018, they're going to Mount Everest base camp in Nepal, which is around 19 or 20,000 feet up. So they're doing that. And then I'm not sure what they have after that. The easiest way would be to go on the MMRF website and look at their events and look at Moving Mountains for Myeloma. And
okay. Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, that's a great tip for the aspiring climbers that are looking forward to 2018 climb. So I just wanted to know, and I'm sure my audience also would like to know that are there any necessary tests that need to be done for a myeloma patient to determine that he can be eligible or not for the climb? I read that there are some vaccinations that are recommended.
So in terms of going to Tanzania, there's no required vaccinations. There's nothing you have to get, whether you're a patient or not a patient, to go to Tanzania. Some folks, I think, got yellow fever vaccinations. For myeloma patients, I have not had a transplant. Some of the other patients have had transplants. So their doctors wanted to make sure that most of their basically when you get your transplant, you're resetting your system. And so in that case, the doctors just wanted to make sure that the patients were up on all their normal vaccinations.
Okay, yeah.
And then also, I was very concerned about my doctors being okay with me just doing the trip in general. In between our training climb in Colorado and Kilimanjaro this February, I actually became refractory to my maintenance treatment, and I started a new treatment back in November of 2016. So I went and saw my I tried to keep training, and I went and saw my doctors a couple days before I was to leave on the trip, just to one more clearance from them to make sure. And that's something that the MMRF really wanted to make sure, is
Okay.
that all the patients talked to our doctors and made sure that our doctors were okay with it.
Yeah. So you must also be having doctors with you on the trip, right?
We had one doctor, a myeloma specialist, on the trip. Um, so she would sort of keep track. I mean, she was provided help to all of us. And then, as I said, just the team that took us, every night they would check our oxygen, and they had to make sure that our bodily functions were working and that we were eating and how we felt. And so they're very cautious and very careful about how they do this.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that answer, Matt. And I think I'll now jump to the audience questions. We have a couple of questions posted on the website. So somebody's asking, I would like to participate in Moving Mountains initiative of the MMRF. Where do I start? So you just mentioned that they should visit a website. So it would be good if you mentioned that website.
Yeah. So if you go to the MMRF website, they have, on the buttons on top, I think it'll say MMRF events, and you click on that, and then it'll have, the MMRF does a lot of 5Ks and runs and bike rides, and there's actually a group of cyclists riding across the United States right now. But one of the things you should be able to click on is the Moving Mountains for Myeloma, and then when you go to that, it'll list all the different events and what's coming up. Like I said, I know that that team's in the middle of fundraising and training. They're going to Nepal in March of 2018. Like I said, for us, the planning and the training and the fundraising was nearly a year-long effort. So I think the best thing would be to go to the website and take a look at what's coming up.
Okay. So I remember you mentioned something about acute mountain sickness. So there is a question on that. What are some tips to avoid acute mountain sickness that almost 50% of people climbing high altitude suffer from? I remember that you took the longer route. I believe it was to acclimatize for elevation, right?
Right. So we took the longer route, which allowed us to get acclimated to the altitude. Some folks took, and I apologize, I don't remember the name of the medication, but there's an altitude sickness medication that some people took that definitely seemed to work. Nobody on our team really had too many serious problems with the altitude.
Okay, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize, I don't remember the name of.
That's okay. That's okay. So yeah, that the people usually look for tips like these because it's very normal to get worried about, like, you don't want to get sick at the top of the peak and then not have things around to help you. So yeah, I think the MMRF website would be the best place to visit and get some more information about this climb and the other climbs that is about to happen in 2018 to Mount Everest in Nepal, right? So yeah, Matt, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you today with us, and thank you so much for your finding time for us and the spectacular journey of yours and telling us about your inspiring story. Anyone who would like to know more about Matt or about climbing mountains, please read Matt's blog, mattversusmyeloma.com, and also follow him on Twitter at mpg61. I hope this talk will be useful to all those who aspire to be a part of the fundraiser by the MMRF, or to even those who would like to brave it to the summit just for fun. Audience, I thank you for your support, and we look forward to join us for our next Cure Talks on understanding stem cell transplant as a treatment option for myeloma with Dr. Rafael Fonseca on October 4th, 2017. For more information on this and other upcoming webinars, please visit our website, curetalks.com, and follow us on Twitter at curetalks. Or you can also email us at priya@trilex.com or shweta@trilex.com. The link for today's webinar will be sent via email to all the participants and shared on social media. So until the next talk, everyone, bye-bye, and thank you very much.